I have this little thing called social anxiety, which prevents me from functioning like a normal human being and makes me super awkward around people to the point where I just do or say the weirdest things. Because I think everyone is constantly looking and judging me and hates me, which makes me hate myself too. Help me. I don't really have a point to this video apart from telling you guys some funny stories that now make me instantly cringe at myself for the rest of my life. So just before high school started, I got one of those socializing videos on how to talk to people. If you struggle with being super social, you probably would have searched how to talk to people. Or if you're like me, clicked a video about it since YouTube knows more about me than I know myself. The video talked about a few things you should do. One of it being to look at the person when they speak, which is something I knew I should be doing, but didn't really know how to do. Most times I just listen while working and then occasionally glance my head at the person speaking, then go back to work on my own paper. But after watching this video, I thought, you know what, I'm actually going to look at people when they speak. And since the video didn't really explain where I should look, I decided I'm just going to look at them in the eye. Because that's a normal thing people do when talking to someone. Right? So when school started and I was in history class, our teacher started talking, which is when I realized this is my chance. I need to look like I'm participating in class. I turned to the teacher and deadlocked eyes with her. I was just staring straight into her eyes, which I think creeped her out. She was probably wondering, why is he just staring at me? Which is fair because I would only look at people's eyes when they were talking. What didn't help was when I spoke in a big group discussion, I had no idea where to look. Thanks for nothing, you useless YouTube video. So I just stared every single person in the eye when I spoke to them, then repeated the order I did it in till I finished talking. Man, that was so awkward. Over time, 6 months later, I kinda got the realization that I was creeping people out when they were talking. They would try not to look at me when they spoke, as I would just be sitting there, eyes widen, trying to stare into their soul to show I'm paying attention to everything they're saying. Eventually, when I realized this, I decided to stop staring at people when they talked, which was so difficult at this point. I'd spent 6 months to make it a habit to deadlock eyes when someone was speaking. So in trying to break that habit, I started to stare at other things. Commonly, their forehead. So now whenever I'm talking to people, I'll start trying to have a staring contest with their forehead, which just looks funny. It also looks like I'm talking to their forehead when speaking to them, but I've gotten better at it. Now, I just stare at their nose. Okay, I don't know if that's actually any better, but this gave me so much anxiety during my high school year that now I just can't talk to people. Also, I sometimes just don't want to. Another time my anxiety decided to make me hate myself was when I moved into my dorm for the first year. You see, we all had our own rooms, but had to share the bathrooms with everyone, which at first I was like, that's fine, I've used the bathroom in public many times. Of course, I would never poop in public bathrooms, but it's fine. Oh, how I was very wrong. What I didn't know was that you had to share the bathrooms. Share with both boys and girls. That was the most awkward and uncomfortable experience of my life. I would just walk into the bathroom and sometimes see a girl and my anxiety would peak so fast because I just thought I walked into the girls' bathroom and I'm a creep. So I froze for a second to realize that it's a shared bathroom and I'm not in the girls' bathroom and I'm not a creep. That's standing there, frozen. I can't help it, okay? My anxiety isn't used to sharing public bathrooms with the girls. What made it worse is that since I'm in a dorm, all the walls are paper thin, meaning you can hear when someone would open their door, walk to the bathroom, open the bathroom door, and close the stall door. Which gave me even more anxiety if I didn't already have enough. I don't want a bunch of people to know when I'm going to the bathroom, but it gets worse. Sometimes I'd run into my neighbors, who I didn't know because I can't talk to people. So we would just awkwardly stare at each other through the mirror. Not only did I not know what to say to them, I also had to avoid staring at them because that habit is still there, and I don't want to stare at their forehead. Thank you, social anxiety. Eventually, I just stopped going to the bathroom when people were there, which was easy to do since I could hear everything. I started going at around 2 AM when I knew everyone was asleep. I got good at going from my dorm to the bathroom really quietly to avoid having people run into me and having to talk to them. I still ran into 1 or 2 people, so I now went at 4 AM. At this time, I could also use the bathroom at the other side of the floor, which was cleaner. That was the only place I could go to defecate. That sounds so weird. And I always thought people would judge me for walking from one side of the floor to the other just to use the bathroom when there was one closer to me. The reason I did this is because the bathroom on my side of the floor had American toilets, while the other side had European toilets, which is more common in Asia where I grew up, and more comfortable. So every time I had to defecate, I'd wait till late night so I could go to the bathroom on the other side to avoid running into people and have them judge me, because I still have anxiety and hate myself. But it gets worse. I couldn't exit the stall if someone was at the sink because for some reason my social anxiety got so bad that I would stay in the stall and wait till they left. Only then can I go wash my hands and quickly disappear and fall into a pit filled with my own despair. So this other time, my anxiety scarred me so much I can no longer hold hands with anyone in public. Not like I was holding hands with anyone anyways. My mom and I were exiting the train station and were holding hands when we were on the escalator. It was really crowded and we were trying to get out of the crowd, so we stopped holding hands and tried to walk up past the crowd of people. When we got to the end of the escalator, I thought my mom was standing next to me, so I reached out and grabbed her hand. When I was holding her hand, I realized something felt different. I turned to my mom and saw a random Chinese woman who was not my mom, but looked very similar to my mom. And I was a 16 or 17-year-old that just grabbed her hand. I tried to apologize and explain how I thought she was my mom, and my mom on the other hand saw this happen and started laughing at me. Also, did I mention it was crowded? Yeah, it was crowded. A bunch of random people saw this and looked at me like I committed a crime against this old woman. My anxiety wanted me to jump into a hole, eat a rock and die. There was a mix of trauma and anxiety which led me to never hold hands with anyone ever again. I don't know why, but social anxiety is one of the things that isn't talked about a lot, which I guess makes sense. How do you talk to someone about social anxiety when you struggle with it yourself? I'm not really an expert on this, I'm just some guy on the internet sharing some of my funnier experience with it. I've also had some not so great moments with anxiety and have been trying to open up more about it, but that's easier said than done. If you know someone with anxiety and you're close with them, try talking to them. It might be easier for them to open up about it when someone else starts the conversation. And if you are someone that has anxiety, open up to someone you trust. It's not healthy to keep it all in. I know that from experience, and it ended up being super mentally draining and everything just explodes in your mind. Okay, bye, I'm dead now.